YouTube? Well, sometimes you can do everything except that one thing that you really want to do. Now, we want your questions about what you can and can't do on YouTube. We've got Gwen Miller, Shelly Saves the Day, and myself here on Video Marketing Live. And we're here to help you grow your business on YouTube and transform your viewers into loyal customers. So my first question is to Gwen Miller. Gwen, inevitably, when it comes to this, the biggest question is about copyright claims and
Oh,
something that
yeah.
everyone wants to know about fair use, which is basically why can't I upload any song or movie to my YouTube channel? So let's start by why can't we?
Well, because that's not how copyright law works. Like, yes, there is something called fair use, and fair use pretty much states you have to be using the piece of content in a way that is adding critique or something transformative. Like, you have an opinion about the content that is going to be in the public interest for you to share. But what I will say about fair use is it's not actually something you can litigate within the YouTube system. Like, they can still claim you. And if you really want to prove fair use, you have to go to a court. So at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, most of the time it isn't worth it to fight the fair use battle because it's going to cost you so much in legal fees. If you're trying to do mental gymnastics to stand on your head to justify that, oh, I am actually making commentary on this video, then you should probably think twice. If somebody claims against you, I would say 85% of the time it's not worth fighting. I don't know,
And
but what is your opinion?
well, my opinion is that YouTube, being a national and global media company of sorts, has tried to take copyright and trademark law and shoehorn it into this modern world that we have.
Yes.
And, they have things like Content ID that track different types of tracks and all sorts of things that they've built into this technology of theirs. And it's very complicated to begin with. That's why lawyers do billions of dollars in
Mm-hmm.
lawsuits and so forth. So they've made an effort and they've tried to, make it very clear to the average person who just is not an attorney what you can and can't do without a lot of legal mumbo jumbo. So I'm going to go to Shelly Saves the Day here. And Shelly, if there was just sort of one or two sort of rules that you would follow if you're a content creator or a business deciding what content is okay to go up on YouTube as far as copyright goes, what would you say? What would be your sort of guiding principle?
If you didn't make it, don't post it is a, a guiding principle. I will say I literally just got off a webinar that YouTube was putting on as part of their Shorts Roundtable program. And they actually had someone from YouTube come in and talk about copyright. And the number of people in the comments being like, I don't understand why I can't monetize. Why can't they do rev share?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between claim and strike? There's so much that
Yes.
apparently people don't seem to understand, like differences between the two, how rev sharing actually works. And that, as Gwen mentioned, like YouTube is this neutral third party and they're not going to get into the middle of litigation. It's going to be like, you guys and your lawyers work it out. If we get a claim,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to take it down. If we get a claim, we're going to back off, or we're going to, ask you to take it down. And so it's amazing to me the amount of people who are mad at YouTube for all of this stuff that happens with copyright. It was everything from well, I created a cover song and I'm like, well, cover songs don't count. Trust me, I know, because I do cover songs, and every single one of them, no matter if you take it down to a quarter tempo and make them very sad like I do, it's part of composition, and composition will still get you
Yes.
even if you make your own guitar ditty to go along with it. So there's a lot that needs to be said. And so if you really want to be worried about that, not worry about fair use and is it transformative and arguing that in court of law, a good rule of thumb is if you didn't make it, don't post it.
Correct. You
So
got to realize here that the Digital Millennial Copyright Act, which is what started this all, the DMCA, it gives YouTube liability if a copyright holder comes to them and asks them to take down a piece of content and they do not take down that piece of content. They are liable for that. Guess what they're not liable for? You claiming fair use and them still taking down that copyright. Then it gets litigated in a court of law, and then if you come back to them with a piece of paper that says I won this, then they'll let you put it back up. But they're not liable for getting that quote unquote wrong. So they're always going to err on the side of taking things down versus leaving them up if there is a question, because that's how the DMCA was written.
And
So I
I'm
feel
going
like, oh yeah, go ahead.
I just want to direct this to Gwen Miller because Gwen manages huge amounts of content for one of the original enormous content companies, Hearst.
Right.
So
Right.
I want to ask just a or B question, right? So here's two examples. For instance, on the one hand, I love watching these YouTube channels. There's about 5 or 10 really good YouTube channels that they break down movie and television stories on their channels. My presumption is that they do not own this, but they break it down shot by shot, or lighting on this story, or script, or character, or sound design, and they break it down, and they're just fascinating, and I love watching these. And they seem to be doing fine. They're up, they're running. I don't see any ads even a lot of time on them. Now, on the other hand, I may buy a song. I license a song from a service that's in the business of licensing songs. And then on my channel, it says, you have a copyright claim that says you don't own this and you can't use this. And I have to go through an effort after I've already paid for the service of defending my rights. So how can both of these exist in the same world?
That's because copyright holders have a vast amount of freedom on what policies they put into place when they are working with their content within YouTube's copyright system, which is called Content ID. And the two parts of the kind of the entertainment industry have taken vastly different tacks. So the movie industry tends to feel that, hey, commentary on our videos, analysis of our movies, commentary on our movies is actually good for us. They don't think, and I agree with them, that anyone is watching a breakdown of the Lord of the Rings as a replacement for watching freaking Lord of the Rings. Like, they figure it's driving people more likely to go watch the movie. So a lot of time these movie companies are not quite so, like, if you Full Sail upload their video to YouTube, they're gonna yank that, yes. But if it's something that they feel is actually promotional, they're much more likely to let that go. The music industry, if you've been around this world for a while, has had a much more adversarial relationship with people using their music online. They're much more likely, not even like, some places will have policies like, you can use up to 20 seconds of one of my movies or something like that. With music, it's like zero. Like, if you just blink, to Shelley's point, I have had lives claimed where someone covers like Simon and Garfunkel, like Bridge Over Troubled Water, like these old songs. It does not matter. The music industry sees this as a way to make cash. So they will either claim and make money off your content, or they may not let you do it at all.
So let me redirect this to Shelley Saves the Day. Shelley, if I have actually licensed this song, how can that person claiming it actually be calling themselves a copyright holder if they don't actually own the copyright? How is this possible?
Well, it depends on a lot of factors. It depends.
I have to drink water from the red bottle now.
Now, keep in mind that the people who are making the music sometimes are not, and most commonly are not the people who actually own the copyright for publishing and for composition. A lot of the time, that's what, the whole Taylor Swift debacle that came through. A lot of the time, the performer even could be like, oh man, I don't care, go ahead. The band is fine with it. The publishing label is not. And the publishing label is the one that matters because they own usually the masters or the rights to the songs most of the time. So there's also a few different things. If you purchase a song through iTunes or something like that, or Apple Music when it was that, that's for personal use. It's not for commercial use. It's not for use in your YouTube videos. So that is almost always going to get either a claim or a strike because that is not the correct license type for it. Now, if you are someone who has licensed a song, maybe through Epidemic Sounds, which is a very popular one, or something else, there are two handholds to this. One of them is going to be all of their songs or catalog are usually already loaded into the Content ID system. That way, if it is found, it's flagged really quickly and you could get a claim. The second part of the agreement, though, is after you purchase your subscription and license, and you must have a current license to use a song from that service. They won't get you if you leave the service later. You just can't continue to use the music in new productions. But if you have that and you haven't yet actually hooked up your YouTube channel into their database in the background, what they're going to do is they're first going to find the song, and then they're going to comb through their database of all the people who are paying us. Have they told us what YouTube channel that this song could potentially show up on? And if those two have a handhold and match, then they're going to be like, okay, never mind, we're not going to do this. If they don't, because you failed to claim it and actually register it in the back end, then they will absolutely come after you and claim you. And additionally, I know there's more, some of the apps that you use, let's say Spark Video or something, you're making Instagram stories, you decide to make a YouTube short out of it. Internal music in some of these apps is sometimes licensed through some of these services, such as Epidemic Sound. So if you were to then take a creation that you made inside of this video, this free software or paid software, then you export it and you put it up on YouTube, you could still get a claim because the music is coming from inside of the app and they're hooked up with Epidemic Sounds. So it's a lot of different situations that could happen.
And I'm going to send it back to Gwen Miller. Gwen, what's the difference? What's the likely result these days? Is it a copyright claim? Is it a monetization of that video by someone who doesn't own that channel? Is it, I have not done this, but do you have to go to copyright school, like going to traffic school? Because I have heard of copyright school from YouTube, but I have not gone there. What is the likely result of most problems like this?
To really quickly also kind of wrap up what Shelley was saying, something that is also very key. Say you do dot all your I's. The musician's like, great, you can use my music, but you go the further step and go to their label and you get a contract signed. That is still not enough. Like these, and sometimes, like especially for these smaller labels, they won't fully understand the process they have to do. So you need to walk them through it. They need to go in and whitelist you in their Content ID. Because otherwise you can have a fully legal agreement and still get claimed against because they haven't realized that they go to an extra step and add you into Content ID. So make sure you're thinking about all the way through the process, because if not, you can get claimed. And there's several different states you can get claimed in. And it's all up to how, I don't want to say mean the copyright holder is, but kinda like they can have it set to different levels of severity. Like the lightest is, hey, we just want to track you. We want to see what you're doing. We want to kind of see what people are doing with our content, and they're fine with it, really fine with it. So usually in that case, they'll just release the claim, but sometimes they'll keep the claim on there, but it's just set to track and it won't actually physically affect you.
Now, we could make this all about this one version of what's permitted and not permitted on YouTube, but I want to talk about some other things. So here's something. Let's say I am company ABC and I'm like, I'm just starting a YouTube channel, but you know what? I'm not getting viewers. There's this website that says if you pay us $20, you'll get 1,000 new viewers or legit quote unquote subscribers. Is that allowed on YouTube? Shelley saves the day. Should we do that? Yay!
You should definitely not do that. There is actually in the terms and conditions and rules of the road when it comes to YouTube, there's an entire section when it comes to fake engagement. And fake engagement is going to be services like that, purchasing of subscribers, purchasing of views, trying to buy a lot of likes. And a lot of the time they're going to find that and they're going to say anything that is artificially increasing your views, likes, comments, or other metrics. And we can see that it's an automated type of thing, or anything that's meant to completely incentivize viewers for engagement. That can lead to channel termination and strikes against your channel. So don't do it.
And we want to hear from the chat crew like Pixel Pia and Hel Hefe and others about what you guys want to know, if it's okay or not.
But I do want to say one thing about that too.
Oh,
If you hire someone
yes.
If you hire someone and then they go and do the dirty business about buying the likes and subscribers, you cannot throw your hands up in the air and be like, I didn't know. There is this actual kind of contract almost in place when it comes to terms and conditions that says if they're acting on your behalf, you are responsible for people who are making changes to your account, whether good or bad. So they can still come after you and you cannot feign ignorance like, I didn't know.
And strikes are very serious. Like that's the thing that I don't think that some YouTubers don't understand is you don't want to strike. You can also get them for copyright. They're a lot rare. Like if you're buying subs, like that's just YouTube's decision, and they will come down with thunder on you because that's a direct threat to them and their business model. The copyright thing, usually it has to be pretty egregious. The copyright holder has to be kind of particularly like, vengeful against you. And yes, there are ways to like go to copyright school, which will reduce the time that strike is on your record. Your goal is here to not accumulate 3 strikes within a certain amount of time. So they do clear off. So you want to clear those off before you get more. Now, your goal should be you never get any, but you certainly do not want them sitting there. So when you can clear that off with copyright school a little bit faster, highly recommend.
You want to hear something kind of cool? I just learned today in that training right before I came on here. They said that 93% of all of the content ID claims and stuff for copyright, that content still remains on the platform, but it is shared monetization where you just don't keep the money. And then they said it's very little. It's 4% where it actually gets blocked, and only 2.5% that is the tracking feature, which I hadn't heard of a lot of until you actually also mentioned it, and I saw it in the sheet, and I was like, oh, that's neat. But yeah, almost 93%. They keep it on and they just take the money.
Yeah, I wouldn't know why you would do the tracking, but yes, most of the time they're just seeing it as a secondary revenue source. If you're going to go to all the work to upload things for them, which they can earn money off of, most copyright holders are not going to complain about that and they'll leave it up. When they don't leave it up, it's usually because you said something really mean about them.
And Shelly saves the day. I don't care about these rules. YouTube, schmootube. I'm going to do whatever I want. Strike, no strike. If they kick me off, you know what I'm just going to do? I am just going to start another channel. What do you think about that?
They're not going to let you usually.
What do you mean not let me? I'm just going to start another channel. Channels are free.
Well, and another thing too is if you get kicked out of the partner program, that's so the AdSense and monetization program, that's forever. That's every channel. That's every website. That's anything that gets paired with in AdSense. So they'll tell you like once you try and get monetized or you try and hook up with an AdSense, they'll just kill it. They'll be like, nope, not for you.
So they can somehow know, even if I use a different email, that it's really me, that I'm really truly banned.
I'm going to say yes. Or like if you get to the point where you're successful and you're trying to make money, they'll find out. I don't know.
Now, Gwen Miller, I have this great idea. I am just going to take all these great TikToks from all these other channels, and I'm just going to upload them to my own channel from TikTok. You know what? I'm going to be a millionaire. What do you think? They're really popular there. I'm just going to make them my own on my own channel.
I mean, you might, look, it does get a little bit more tricky for YouTube to catch you if it's not already in their content IDs. Some rights holders will take their content from other platforms and fingerprint it in content IDs, so you can't do that. But as you'll know, there's a lot of compilation TikTok channels up there. But what I will say is, unless there's some janky workarounds where they'll take a channel that's already in their partner program and change the content and hope it slides under YouTube's notice for a while. But if you're going straight in and trying to start one of these channels and then saying, hey, YouTube, can I get monetized with this second platform? They're not going to allow you into the partner program. Like they're just not like, and you can try putting in an appeal video, but they're going to deny you pretty quickly.
Another thing you have to think about is the amount of time that it still takes to get monetized. One, you still have to have the watch time. And with the majority of these short videos, if they are coming from the short shelf, that time doesn't accumulate towards your 4,000 hours. And then not only that, after let's say you make it, to your 4,000 hours. You still have to have the subscribers. And let's say you go through the process and you go in, they still are taking up to a month or more sometimes to approve channels. And if they see that all of your content is completely just other people's stuff, and more than likely you didn't even take the watermark off of it, they're not going to allow you into the partner program either.
Now, I want to talk about another topic, because what do they have also on YouTube? You have YouTube ads. And a lot of people say, oh, well, I'll run a YouTube ad for my product, but there's this whole host of things that are no-nos. And I'm just going to cover a few of them and chime in with any things like there's a lot of restrictions on certain financial products you can do, things about personal loans or real estate loans, speculative financial products, credit repair, but debt services is okay. Cryptocurrencies of most kinds is okay. Well, not all kinds, but some kinds. I'm just very clearly scanning. And sometimes they'll be different in different countries. So the UK will be different in the US. And then there's like exaggerated or inaccurate claims, offensive language. And this is all based on YouTube advertising. But there's just tons and tons of things. What types of content just on the channel itself? There's certain types of conspiracy theories or COVID-related stuff. What is the stuff is against the rules? I'll go to Gwen on this one.
One of the more interesting ones that is kind of in flux right now is their marijuana rules. So up till about a year ago, it was just you can't make any sort of marijuana content. We will demonetize you, right? And there is a difference between what will get your video taken down or limited reach versus monetization. There is much stricter rules in place for monetization. So, likely if you had marijuana in your video, wouldn't have gotten it fully taken down off the platform. That's reserved for usually like the really terrible stuff. But you would not have gotten monetized. Now the rules are slightly different, in which you can feature marijuana in one of your videos as long as it's not glorifying marijuana, like making it look fun, essentially. But if you're, analyzing like the cannabis industry or talking about the technical aspects of whatever, like they're fine with kind of this business content around cannabis. They're just not fine with like, hey, we're going to smoke a lot of pot and, do different stuff. Now, you'll see like the Try Guys just did something where they like did a spelling bee while high. I would be curious to know how well that actually monetized. And they may have been, had to deal with some advertisers who were okay with that and they were able to monetize it. But just be careful, even though it's legal in most states, it still is not always kosher for monetization.
And Shelley, what other things can you think of that someone, types of content, just the content style or substance itself, that, may not apply to 99% of the people 99% of the time, but you have heard of channels being banned or the videos being not permitted or something like that?
It reminds 89% of the time it works 100%. Well, there's a few things like Gwen alluded to as well. There's two different types of guidelines. You've got one for monetization and one for community guidelines. So you may find something that can fit inside of community guidelines is allowed, but most likely won't get monetized, such as what she just mentioned. But those aren't the only types of things. So anything, and especially if you want to know some of the things that YouTube is a little bit more sticky about, go look at their policies around external links, because that is very cut and dry about what they want you to not link to, which could be very closely then in regard to things they don't want you talking about in your video. So this is going to be stuff to adult websites, stuff that installs like malware. They're talking about like phishing stuff, login credential stuff, links to websites like the recruit for terrorist organizations, regulated goods. So that's going to be firearms, tobacco, like all of those types of things, marijuana or, pharmaceutical drugs. Most of the time you're going to get a big no, that's not allowed. Anything that's going to have contradicting information to like the panini and stuff that's going on right now, a lot of that stuff is going to be it's just a big no. So I would say if you really want to know where they stand on some of that, go look at their policies around external links, because you're going to find it pretty awakening.
We had a client that had a great product for removing rust from almost anything, from car parts, motorcycle parts, antiques, and so forth. And they decided to try removing it from an antique rifle. Well, it did very well. The video did very well. And he said, I think we should do more of these, Dane. What do you think? And I said, you know what? I would, even though it did well, I would probably stay away from derusting any weapons, because we don't know a lot. And this video itself, as we're talking about these banned products, just actually for saying these categories, we might get some sort of flag just for having these in the transcript of this video, but we're okay with that. But I'd say, you know what? Let's stick away. Let's stay away from derusting any weapons on this channel, because we don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But let's ask Gwen a question from the chat. Let me just read this here. Many people are looking for the easy road. This is from El Jefe Reviews, to success on YouTube. All they see is get rich quick scheme. Then they show up in creator groups complaining about how their channel was denied for reused content. What does reused content mean?
So what he's referring to is a little bit what we talked about before, which is you're just wholesale ripping other people's stuff off from other platforms. So it could be that YouTube isn't catching it with their fingerprinting. And remember how powerful their fingerprinting is. If they do have the file in their records, I have seen them identify it as like playing on a TV in the background of your freaking video. It is super powerful, but they're only as powerful as the essentially fingerprints is what we call them when they ingest this stuff that they have. So yeah, you can get away with reusing this content. But people seem to get upset because we get such a visceral rush when you're like, you suddenly have all these views or maybe all these subscribers. It's a little bit similar. There's been a lot of videos kind of looking into lately this phenomena of, say, lookalike channels. So like there's a Mr. Beast knockoff channel that's going around the comments of Mr. Beast saying sub for sub. Like Mr. Beast isn't subbing for you. He's not. But these are most of the time just 13-year-old kids who are just doing it not to make money, but just to like get the, rush from having that many subscribers. And then almost inevitably they do that, get a bunch of subscribers and realize it means nothing, people. It means nothing.
But is it against the rules to portray someone a different channel that you are actually not? Is that against the rules? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I have no idea.
There's actually a rule for impersonation, and you're not supposed to do that. So,
all right.
Now the problem right now, and I'm in a bunch of these creator groups that that YouTube runs, and like creators are just like, YouTube cannot keep up. And creators are like pulling out their hair because all their followers keep getting scammed, but they just keep they find a new method. Once YouTube's able to like crunch down on, they just find a new way to, come sneak back in. Like the one yesterday that I thought was very interesting is they're starting to use, because you have a lot of banned words lists, like, winnings, or like, DM me, like
WhatsApp, gift.
Yeah.
iPhone.
Words, right? What they're starting to do is it's not wingdings, but it's essentially, instead of actually using actual words, they're putting in special characters.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, that's a thing. But that is getting by these filters. And so they flagged that yesterday to the product team of, hey, you should be, and now I'm going to get this all wrong because I'm not this technical. You should be converting all these to ASCII, so that you can catch all these no matter what format they're trying to put it up in.
There's characters that look like they're English, but they're actually an alternate character. And for both YouTube descriptions and comments, there's a great flexibility in what you can do. So it might look like a cursive or a bold, and so that actually doesn't count as a letter, so it's hard to filter. They should just only permit like emojis and text.
Yeah, I've never really
Keep it
understood
simple.
why you need why. And in fact, I don't think
Internationalization.
I've never seen a legitimate like person use like italics. It's always a scammer.
So that sort of brings up a different question over to Shelley. Shelley saves the day to save the day on this because what's happening to some creators on their live streams is people are coming in on the live streams making nasty comments,
Oh,
and that is actually creating uh, great problems. I don't know if channels have been banned entirely, but they are. I don't know. I just was reading from, I think, Daniel Batal, a
yeah.
comment just the other day. Could you enlighten us a little bit on this?
Well, it wasn't even that they had made comments in the live stream that were inappropriate. It was the channel avatar that was used was depicting adult themed type of
Oh
things. So they would
my.
make a very generic comment like, I hope everyone is successful. But unfortunately, they just do a lot of comments. And it looks like if you happen to be someone who is bringing up comments on screen and maybe you're not selecting individual comments, but you're seeing a running total like you see a lot of the time, and it is picking up from the AI, like, oh, look at all these adult images. And so it actually got a YouTube channel shut down completely. So Daniel had been working with them and working with YouTube to try and get that channel back online, which they did. And then they came back and they comment bombed on like another live stream that they did. So it's not even you're not even safe sometimes in live streams because of possible comments, or not even the comments left, but the avatars that people use to leave comments. So that was
So,
interesting.
so it is currently, from what I hear you saying, it's currently against the rules for you to have live stream and have people comment on it with dirty photos in their icons. That's currently
Apparently,
against the rules.
apparently that
I
is, well,
mean,
and actually, yeah,
it's
that's going to be kind
inadvertent.
of, yeah, yeah, you can't have that. It kind of, yeah, you can't have that.
I
Well, just
mean,
like you
look,
can't link to an external site that has that, you can't
yeah.
have that as the avatar either.
There has been some discussion that YouTube really needs to turn that powerful AI onto avatars. Like they should be able to fingerprint, say, Mr. Beast's avatar and not let anyone else have that avatar, right? In the same principle that AI, if it can catch it in a live stream, can catch it on someone's avatar and should be essentially rejecting it at the point of trying to actually even add that avatar for the first time. The system just shouldn't let you.
Wouldn't it be amazing if it was your avatar was an NFT that was only traceable from, you know what I mean? Like, so anyone else who tried to use it, if they somehow got it, there would already be a big, long blockchain trail of it anyway. But yeah, I agree. Like, avatars should not be able to, and that's one of the things that's happening under impersonation as well. People will take the entire description box, they'll take the avatar, they'll take the same channel banner, they'll download all of it, and they'll start making these channels that look very similar. And then a lot of them have nefarious purposes, whether it's let's talk about crypto, or let's do this and you end up losing money, or message me on WhatsApp and all of a sudden it's your viewers are being asked for money. So it's a problem right now, a big one.
Is it, Shelley, is it against the rules for me to ask for people to WhatsApp me or email me or join my financial services community?
You're walking a fine line there. I mean, you would have to go
You
look in.
shouldn't, but is it against the
You should.
rules?
Depending on what site you're sending them to, it could be against the rules as part of the external linking policy. So it depends on the site that you're
Oh,
and the
she
purpose
said
in
it
which,
depends.
right? So if you're saying I have a private Facebook group and you pay monthly and like that may be completely legal and okay. But if you're saying and then go to this website, install this software and it's about crypto, probably not okay. So
And tell us in the chat crew if you've ever had a problem that you're like, how do I do this? Gwen Miller, what else is against the rules to do as someone in chat, someone who's chatting either on a live stream or on a comments of a
Well, I
different
mean,
channel?
look, there's all different levels of this, right? And some people can cry foul when like, creators themselves are setting rules, for the audience, like free speech. Well, there is no free speech. This is the creator's domain. So they can kick you out for any reason that they want to. They can, they can take down comments for any reason they want to. Now, YouTube is making it a little bit easier to give creators cover. So, like, you can set up, like, even on your VODs now, you can set up community guidelines, which will pop up and say, hey, here's 3 things you better know before you comment. And if you transgress any of these, you're out, and it doesn't matter, who you are. Like, I personally keep a very strict hold over my comment sections. My audience is women. And I'm a big believer in making a safe place for women on this type of content. We're not debating politics in these videos. We're not doing anything that even touches on need for free speech. We're a lifestyle channels, right? And I don't want trolls coming into this space, which should be for women, for relaxing and making it a hostile environment for women. So, like, I have my team be very, if it gets nasty at all, like if they are starting to comment on our host's appearance, like, it's a no-go zone for me. What's really nice with YouTube is they do have pretty good moderation tools. I've had situations, this was even like 8 years ago, this good, like, where people kept accusing my host of having a nose job, and the YouTube would actually flag those and put them, like, within the, like, you might want to review these section, and it was very smart. So it was like flagging like anything that had to do with plastic surgery, because most of the time those comments are typically made in a derogatory tone. So YouTube will help you a bit with this, depending on the levels you have your firmness set. But I encourage you to make sure that your comment section remains a place that is hospitable to your audience, versus some troll who's going to throw free speech in your face as some sort of excuse on why they have to be an asshole.
And I just want to respond to the comment. This is my original nose. So I want to ask Shelley, let's talk about something on a little bit different vein, of something that's potentially not quite so obnoxious, but isn't perhaps permitted. You have seen a number of videos now that they say, when they begin, it says, is it sponsored content, or is that the label that shows up? So it's a feature that you add within YouTube Studio on the video. It says, basically, if you are doing some branded content, you've got a brand deal as a creator, you put sponsored content, and maybe it's a totally valuable thing, even if it wasn't sponsored. But my question is it against the rules to not do that?
Well, the FTC would say yes if they, caught on. Basically, when you're talking about undisclosed sponsorships, and so we're not just saying sometimes maybe you got sent something, they didn't require you, there was no expectation of delivery, there was no payment involved, there was something like that, is a little bit more like, maybe you make a video, maybe you don't. That doesn't, I would verbally disclaim that I got an item for free, but it's not necessarily paid because you didn't get paid for it.
And now, affiliate links you might mention, not necessarily.
Well, and you do have a disclosure that would say these are affiliated, and if you click on them, then I make money. But if we're talking like you wrote a contract with a company, they paid you some set of fees, and they required you to post, let's say, on a certain date or saying certain talking points, that is a sponsored post or a sponsored video. And so there are rules set out from the FTC for disclosure, which is it has to be open, has to be obvious, it has to be talked about. And so usually you're supposed to see like hashtag sponsored, hashtag ad, hashtag a few different things that they have. You're supposed to have it be visible. You're supposed to say it within the first 30 seconds and say, and then, it's supposed to, if you have an affiliated link, you'd have it towards the top. You would have a disclaimer that says this post or video was sponsored by, and you would disclose that as well. So there are several steps that you're supposed to take, including checking the box that said this is a paid advertisement, or, it was a paid sponsored post. And the problem is there's so many people that don't do it. And there's just too many videos right now to catch all of them. But each single instance is actually finable, and action could be taken from the FTC against you for failing to disclose properly.
And it's expensive. And that's a really good point, Shelley, that people need to remember is it's not enough to hit that this is sponsored button. That does not fulfill That does not fulfill the FTC requirements. That is an extra layer that's nice for your audience to have because it's going to show up. So there is a potential where someone starts your video 2 minutes in, right? So they didn't hear that disclaimer in the first 30 seconds. But if you hit the button that says this is sponsored, YouTube shows for the first like 10 seconds of every watch session of your video, no matter where they start, they're going to show this video contains sponsored content on the screen. So it's a very good thing to have. But the FTC clearly requires a verbal disclaimer. You have to see it. You can't just put it on text on the screen. You have to verbally say this contains sponsored content, or like this parts of this video are sponsored or an ad. What you cannot say is just say, thanks to my partner JCPenney. People like to use that word partner, but the FTC has been very clear that just saying partner is not enough, because there's a lot of ways you might be partnering with someone that don't include that I got paid.
And they once fined Kim Kardashian for that. So it was on Instagram though, but they fined her for something.
Yep.
So if they can go after her, they can go after anyone. But I wanted to ask,
and if you're a company, they'll go after you even more. So they've gone after digital video companies much harder than they've gone after creators. So all you companies around here, if you're a company, they will slap your hand even harder.
well, I want to ask sort of a slightly different question. We've sort of forgotten about this. No one really talks about it so much anymore. But what about that little radio button where you're supposed to say, this is for kids or it's not for kids? And there was a huge deal about it a couple of years ago. Now no one talks about it. Just if it's for kids, select it. Why do we do that? And what if you say, yeah, kids can watch this? You're like, that's great. Yeah, anyone can watch my stuff. Kid can watch it, anyone. Why is that so important, Gwen Miller?
Okay, so this again is YouTube responding to legislative action and political pressure, right? So they started getting a ton of pressure of like, you are advertising to children when you shouldn't be advertising to children, using children's data to advertise to them. That became a no-no. So they had to have a way to go in and identify what was children's content and what was not children's content. And that was something they have not been able to teach their AI yet. So they have to do it manually. So they mainly rely on creators to self-identify their content if it is for children. Now, creators don't really want to do this, right? Because you get decreased monetization. They can still have ads running, but it's not advertisers won't pay as much for them because it's not personalized ads to those little bitty kids. So YouTube actually, when you self-report, they do spot check. So they have an entire team that comes in and spot check, and they score
and a
you.
rating. Yep.
And if you get a bad score, bad things will happen to you. Shelly, do you know what the bad things are?
Not offhand, but I can tell you that you can know what your, not necessarily your score, but your rating is when you're going through and self-identifying. There's a little underneath the right-hand side, there's little verbiage that will actually say like, you have identified mostly correct or something like that. So you have a trust factor of like very high, or it's that information right there. Because if you self-identify incorrectly and you do it multiple times, then your trust factor is actually quite low. And so that is going to lead to things like having monetization, not having comments on, having reduced ads, if any ads shown at all. So there's a lot of consequences that come along with it.
You can also get an individual video age gated. So this is the thing that I see most commonly happening to these like channels, which you can arguably say are on the cusp, like Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is not a kids channel. He has a very large older audience as well. But there are kids that watch his content. And on occasion, Mr. Beast likes to do some stuff which, objectively is slightly dangerous. And, as a young 20-something-year-old, it can sometimes be a little bit hard for him to get his head around of like, wait, why would this get age gated? So then he gets an age gate slapped on it because he's using throwers or doing some sort of stunt that if a 12-year-old tried to copy would be very, very dangerous. So obviously...
And age gate means if someone signs up for it, it says, you know what, this is not okay for kids, and you have to agree, or if you're a kid, you can't watch it? How does it work?
Yeah. So it just won't be shown to them. And I believe there are parental controls now, where you can like say, this account is not going to show anything that's age gated for people under 18.
Now,
So yeah, and that's just for some of these channels like Mr. Beast, like that just takes a chunk out of your overall views.
Now, I want to follow up on something that Shelley said earlier when we said you just claim that you have affiliates and that's covered. But I don't want to just gloss over that because I think that's a very interesting part. Is it, what are we talking about here when we say you just say that people can get affiliate links? And is that a requirement of YouTube, or is it a requirement of someone else, or just common courtesy? Is it against the rules to not do that? And what are we talking about?
It's a gray area. This is something
No,
I'm
I wanted
always
to ask
fasc-
Shelley. I wanted to ask
Oh,
Shelley.
Oh, I'm going to go with it depends. Depending on the platform that you're using, someone like Amazon, they have a very specific type of verbiage that they would like you to use. I'm a participant in the Amazon affiliate program, blah, blah, blah. So depending on some of the programs, they have like guidelines of the things that they want you to say. Depending on the other programs that you work with, they may have separate disclaimers. It is actually supposed to come out that if there is an affiliated relationship, you should be disclosing that. Some people, because like let's say for instance, TubeBuddy, if I had an entire video about TubeBuddy, I would say if you want to do that, then click down below and that's an affiliated link. You would want to disclose that it's an affiliated link, because otherwise some people may not understand that you're just talking about some company and you're just like, oh yeah, sign up here, and they may not understand that you have a relationship or you get a financial benefit from it. So it's usually good to err on the side of oversharing than undersharing, because some people will feel grimy about it. They signed up for something. Oh, well, you're paid to, let's say, talk good about this company because you make money from them. And you want to make it clear, like, hey, if you click it, maybe you get an extra benefit, and you need to explain it sometimes, but if I never talk about it in the video and I just have it in the description box, I think that's also okay, because I'm not speaking about it, but I still have the link available if someone wants. And there is still a disclaimer in a written form saying, hey, if you click on these links, I can make money. Or you can, go Google them and it's not any additional cost or anything to you. But if you use them, then I make money.
So someone would write this in their description, and we see this of creators doing this. But say again what that language might sound like, or is there a place where you can go and get it?
I mean, if you were to Google it or even YouTube it, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of examples, but it's usually going to say something along the lines of, I have an affiliated relationship, or you might see something like links that are denoted with an asterisk are affiliate links, and I will make commission if you purchase off of it. If you don't want to, you're welcome to Google it, and no harm, no foul. But if you use them, just know that I will receive monetization or reward.
And I wanted to follow up with Gwen Miller here, sort of on a related note. As someone, Gwen Miller, who's run a lot of influencer campaigns, what is the requirement for either the brand or the influencer that may be different on a paid campaign than anything we just said? Or did we cover everything that is required?
look, affiliate links are a little bit of a gray area right now.
Not affiliate links, brand
I,
deals.
I know. I'm
Oh,
going to get
okay.
to it, Dane.
Okay.
But I have talked directly to the FTC about the affiliate link issue. And look, they don't call out affiliate links as anything special, like within their their Q&A type of sections. But if you talk to them directly, they kind of pussyfoot around a little bit. But they will say that, since it includes you're getting money from it, you do need to disclose it. Now, I think we as an industry has decided, because what they will just say, parrot to you over and over again, is just needs to be close to the point of actual, sell, essentially. And if you are not actually hard pushing to the products in the video, just having it above the link seems to be enough, because it's close to the point when they would be making that buy decision, right? So they clearly know you're going to get some money off of it. But I think we've decided as an industry that you're not required to do the full, this is sponsored, because it's not. You would have made those decisions anyways, whether you had those affiliate links or not. Now, when we get into the actual sponsored content stuff where you're integrating a product into your video because a company has come to you and said, hey, I'm going to give you X amount of money. You're going to talk about my product in your video. Even if they don't require you to say something nice, you still have to disclose, right, that they paid you to talk about it. And in which case most companies are getting very smart. They will put it within your contract, the FTC requirements that you have to do. And a lot of these
Oh.
companies will go above and beyond what the FTC actually requires just to cover their butt. So they'll ask you to say it at the beginning, but they'll also ask you to say it at the end. Some of them will make you write it in text on the screen as well. Some won't. If you ever work with Disney, they will make you put up a small bit of text that runs the entire video, and it's ugly and it's annoying and technically not required by the FTC. But Disney is so overly concerned about, because who are they going to go after for FTC stuff if they, like they're going to go after the biggest kids company in the world, right? So they're very, very careful these days. And this is driven by that same time, when Kim Kardashian got hit. I think, was it Machinima? I think it was Machinima. One of the big MCNs also got hit in terms of
There
they
was
got
a few
slashed.
things, yeah.
And
There's
at
so
the
many
same time, a
undisclosed.
major.
I wish they would all get hit because it makes it
Yeah.
harder for the rest of us,
Correct. And I think one of the major, I forget one of their partners, it was like PlayStation or something. They got hit as well in that case of being like, hey, you did not police your creators enough. Both from like, hey, you're responsible as the brand. You signed this contract. You reviewed the content before it went up. And the same thing with the MCN. It's like these creators are your responsibility. You should have trained them better in FTC requirements. So that's the thing. These brands are very conscious. They can get big fines from the FTC now, and they'll be very careful. If you work with a brand, you send them a piece of content that does not have those declarations, they will send you back and make you re-report it.
The good brands will. The bad brands will ask you to actually take it out. I've seen it. I've like seen it amongst. You don't have to say this is sponsored, or you don't have to. You can just say partnered, or or something like that. Like, because the brands feel that if they say that it's a sponsored, like their reach will be less because like, oh well, they got paid, so they want to like fake buy these like better influencer type of recommendations. So they'll direct influencers to not comply with FTC regulations.
And we're closing in on the end, but I wanted to ask Shelly one more question. Shelly, I found this great idea for getting more subscribers. All you have to do to enter my contest to win $1 million is subscribe.
Giveaways.
Can you do it? Quick answer. Quick answer.
Technically, no.
Technically,
And actually,
no.
there's so much that we could go into about this, including fake. This is fake engagement policy. This is everything from sub for sub, which is actually against terms of service. This is everything like misleading metadata, where people keyword stuff in the description box, also a violation. This is where people use other people's names and tags as part of the video, where it's not actually talked about that in the video. Fake metadata that way. It's where they actually do clickbait in thumbnails that doesn't actually match in any other way. That's also fake engagement. So I'm trying to get it out really quickly, but all of that. And the subscription for a giveaway is actually against terms of as well. You can't actually make a requirement as part of a giveaway where people have to subscribe as one of them.
And as a lead-in, Shelly, do you have a particular interest in all of these guidelines that happen on YouTube?
I actually was telling everyone the other day that there's not enough, I feel like, creators talking to other creators about terms and conditions, why something may be in the gray or not gray. And so I'm actually doing an entire series on my channel about terms and conditions. First, we're going to read it, and then we're going to try and interpret it from a creator. Like, what does this actually mean? Or, what questions would you have? Is this allowed? Is this not allowed? Let's talk about it together. Not legal advice, just advice from a creator.
Not a lawyer. Whose cat is that?
It's Gwen's.
And tell us how people can find your channel, what other value you're offering on there.
Come hang out with me on Shelly Saves the Day, and we're doing live streams, and we're going to talk all sorts about terms and conditions and terms of service about being a YouTube creator.
And Gwen Miller, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Gwen Miller, and Gwen I am technically, and on LinkedIn at Gwen Miller.
And Gwen has a super secret only for the people who have listened to this point. She has a super secret YouTube channel Gwen Miller, go subscribe there. My name's Dane Golden. Find me at Dane Golden everywhere. Find this on videomarketingvalue.com or the VideoUp YouTube channel. And if you'd like to hire me for a consultation, go to talktodane.today. Until next week, we are going to be helping you grow your business on YouTube and transform your viewers into loyal customers. See you next week.